I'm going to go a bit more quickly now and move through the remaining arguments in the video. So the third argument works or is presented as follows. The word wet is only supposed to be used when water gets on something. For an example, if I were to splash water on this mirror right here, I'd say it's wet. But if it were somehow possible to splash water droplets onto water where you could see the water droplets sitting on the water, you'd say that water is wet. Now, as with the first argument, I think that it's a little bit unclear how this argument is supposed to work, and I see at least two ways to read it and interpret it. So one is to take the first sentence that's made here in this passage. The word wet is only supposed to be used when water gets on something. It's a claim about how the word wet is supposed to be used, or what its meaning is. And then in this summary that I've given here, some of the other claims that are made, like about water, whether we'd say that water on a mirror makes the mirror wet, and whether we'd say that water on water makes water wet, those other claims are, that is P2 and P3, are derived from that claim about how the word wet works. In the other summary, which I'll consider in a moment, I've reversed the order there, and I've taken these claims about how we talk about water on a mirror or water droplets that could be seen on water, how we would talk about those things as evidence for this general claim about how the word wet is used. So it's a little bit unclear based on the way that the argument is presented, which direction that line of reasoning is supposed to go. Is it that the claims about how we use language, how we would talk, are supposed to be evidence for the meaning of the word? Or is it that a claim about the meaning of the word is supposed to provide evidence for what we would or would not say? But in this case, I'm taking it in the second sense, that is, a claim about the meaning of the word provides evidence for what we would or would not say. And then this representation of the argument goes on to draw conclusions that basically the conclusion that it's not possible for water to get on water, because what happens when water is poured onto water is not the same thing as what happens when water is poured onto a mirror. And so then that's a reason to think that water can't get on water in the same way, and therefore water can't be wet, since according to premise one, getting on water is what makes water getting on something is what makes that thing wet. And here's the second summary, and you'll see it's almost the same. The only thing that's really different is the sequence of our argumentation, whether it's from the meaning of the word to the way we talk, or from the way that we talk to the meaning of the word. That is basically the order of the first three lines here and how they're labeled. Now, this fourth argument is a quick one, and in fact, in some interpretations, one might not even see it as an argument. One might say it's just kind of an aside, or even like a joke about about how easy the example is to give since he's in a bathroom. But what he says is, I'll give you an example in a second. And when he says example, he means an example of what he talked about in the previous argument number 3. He says, I'll give you an example in a second because, I'm in a bathroom, I've got water in the toilet, sink, shower. And this is kind of funny again, because it's like he's talking about very kind of everyday things that maybe we all have some familiar with, right? Most of us have toilet, sink, shower, and we have water in those things to appeal to. So the kind of implication that we need for Chaz Smith to point to these things in order to teach us about the way water works is kind of funny, and I think tongue-in-cheek. He's intending it to be funny. But it does have, I think, also this kind of implicit structure of an argument. And the way this works, I think, is basically just something like, I'm around a lot of water. I'm able to give you examples. Therefore, I know what I'm talking about. So, if a speaker says to you about something they're, teaching you, a teacher or other speaker says, well, I'll give you an example. Just the fact that they promise to give you an example leads you to have more confidence in them, that they maybe know what they're talking about. And if they point to, say, their familiarity with the subject matter. And they say, well, if they say they're a biology teacher and they say, I spent 10 years in biology laboratories, that's a kind of argument that they should be paid attention to regarding biology. Likewise, I think what this little line here is supposed to imply is I'm around a lot of water. I know about water. I have water in the toilet, sink, shower. So it's easy for me to give examples. It's easy for me to teach you about water since I'm right in the middle of a lot of water here in the bathroom. And again, it is clearly intended to be partly funny, but I do think it at least implies this kind of argumentative structure.